Hi, I'm Keith Thiessen. Today we're going to make this bearskin rug out of reclaimed wooden tiles and an old drop cloth. So to start off, this is a pretty easy project if you have your materials in the right thickness of dimensions. I had 3/4 inch thick reclaimed library shelving and had to resaw it and saw it down to the proper size to get my triangles to be only 1/4 inch thick. It's a good time to punch in and say that not everything I do on the table saw is a technique meant for anybody to try. I'm pretty comfortable with this tool, I've been using it for a while, and in order to get the full effect on the video showing you what the tool is doing, I need to remove the guard. So don't do that at home unless it's absolutely necessary or you're going to hurt yourself and not blame me for it. If that's the case, do whatever the hell you goddamn well please. So that being said, here's resawing on the table saw. You put the blade up, you make a few runs, you flip the thing over, you make sure everything lines up, and you get thinner boards out of thicker boards. It's not magic. It's woodworking. By the way, the reason I was resawing on the table saw is because my old bandsaw had broken down again, and I don't love resawing on the table saw simply because it leaves these burn marks on woods like maple and cherry, and it just is a general mess as opposed to doing it on the bandsaw properly. And almost 100% of what I'm doing here, the resawing and the sanding of the finish off the wood, is unnecessary if you just buy 1/4 inch thick lumber, or even plywood would probably work pretty well for this project. And always take a minute to clean up while you're working so that you have less to clean up after you're working, because if you're anything like me and you have a big pile after you're working, you're not going to clean it up. And now begins the cutting of the little triangle tiles that make up the skin of the bear. So I have the saw set to 31 degrees, I believe. It really doesn't matter as long as you make an isosceles triangle, and many isosceles triangle the exact same shape and size. I could tell you that this is where the project started to get tedious, but I may have thought that at first. But really, this is not even close to where the tedium begins. So this rug is made up of over 850 of these little triangles. At least that's what I was told from people counting it on pictures, but don't take my word for it. Count it yourself. There's a still image from the beginning of the video. Knock yourself out, you weirdo. And, you know, long, boring sanding, but it's a great final product. And when you're working towards a great final product and you've got a long, tedious job ahead of you, what do you like to do? I like to listen to podcasts. So you can check out my podcast, which is called From the Ground Up. It is the story of how we make things. Just tales behind your favorite tools, materials, builds, that sort of thing. I thought this was going to be like a super artsy kind of shot, but it turned out looking really uncomfortable and stupid. But I left it in, because sometimes you deserve to feel uncomfortable and stupid. At this point in the process, the general malaise and ennui should overtake you, and you really get into the zone of just picking up tiles, sanding the corners off, putting them in a bucket, picking up tiles, sanding the corners off, putting them in a bucket, picking up tiles, sanding the corners off, putting them in a bucket. So I improvised the shape, and at first I did this big green bear shape, basically, barely, and then I realized that that's going to be like 4,000 tiles, and I was like, you know what? I went back over it with pink, and it was like a 1/4 of the size, and you'll see that here. And cutting canvas isn't the most fun thing. There's probably a really great way to do it. I used an X-Acto knife because that's what I had, and it worked just fine. In the future, when I make another one of these, I will fold the corners under and apply glue to them so that they don't fray, like they kind of are on my version. So these tiles are really, really well stuck down, and how do I know that? Well, this eye position looked a little bit derpy to me, so I actually flipped them over and dropped them a row closer to the nose, and I had to pull them off by hand after the glue was dried, and it was very, very difficult to do. And what you're seeing me do here is patching a little bit of extra cloth underneath the space where I needed to put a couple more tiles, but I had ran out of canvas underneath. Everything heavy goes on top to clamp it down, and then I would do the next section over and over until this final result, which was really satisfying to take off the plastic here, except for this part where I got really frustrated after all this work. It just wouldn't come off the stupid freaking thing. There you go. And it was a very satisfying experience knowing how well these tiles are stuck down, just to be able to toss this thing around like you would a real piece of cloth and see how it moved and see how it interacted with various objects. And it looks so cool when it folds up and wrinkles and kind of just like molds over an edge, you know? Anyway, I had to sand it, so I sanded it. And then after sanding, there is... Well, actually, there's the part where I flip it over and trim up all the frayed bits and the excess cloth from underneath, which, though an important part of the process, I forgot about because it's not as exciting as finishing. Man, the way this thing moves is just so cool. So, I use regular wood glue on this whole project, by the way. You can adhere wood to canvas with wood glue very easily, and it's a very, very tough bond. The finish I'm putting on is just a regular polyurethane with in satin, because I didn't really want this thing to be shiny. That would be too much. It's already a lot, and we don't want it to be extra, as the kids 5 years ago say. And here's an example of what you can do with it. You just toss it over a chair, and it looks super cool. That might even end up being the thumbnail. You'll know because you clicked on it, but that might be the thumbnail. You can put it over the back of a couch. It's actually not that uncomfortable. Actually, one of my favorite applications was putting it on top of a plush rug. It feels so weird and cool when you walk barefoot over this on a squishy surface like a plush rug. And for my last trick, I will scare the crap out of my cat, who does not like the sound of wooden tiles hitting the floor over and over at high speed. Bye, Gus. If you're tired of hearing me talk and you still like to see the projects that I make in process and in the process of design, you should follow my Instagram, @KeithDecent, and you can really see all of the ins and outs of the stuff I build, especially if you follow the stories. It's a good time. So if you like this video, do the subscribe and the like stuff. I don't need to tell you people what to do. You're savvy people. You can hit buttons on your own without being told. Anyway, until next time, this is Keith Decent saying, later, makers.